of refugee, climate change, terrorism, this is very difficult to solve. And our meeting also happened against the backdrop when unilateralism and protectionism are on the rise. So as the permanent member of UN Security Council, China and France shoulder the same mission. And our both countries are also the major economies. So it's also our job to bring the world economy towards recovery momentum. We both believe that the solution to solve these challenges and difficulties should rely on communication, dialogue, cooperation. We firmly oppose unilateralism and protectionism and uphold multilateralism and UN Charter-centered world order, defined open economy. The relationship between our two countries will always be exemplary to the other Western and European countries. And our relations are full of vitality, and we have very good foundation. And also we have huge potentials to unlock. Just now, I reached the consensus with Prime Minister Philippe. We are willing to strengthen our cooperation in nuclear areas. So regarding the civil nuclear field, we have a long history in cooperation and build mutual trust. We right now should do a good job in third-party markets, especially the projects in the UK. Make sure it's 100% safe and play an economic scale effective. And China also would like to work with the France to deal with the spent fuel reprocessing. We reached the consensus that we should speed up to sign the documents in the nuclear spent fuel reprocessing. We almost done the technical discussion part. Right now is working on the policies, which shows that our two countries are highly complementary in these projects and areas. China right now, around the world, we talk about nuclear power or nuclear plant. China has the most in both areas. So for the spent fuel reprocessing, we would like to work with French, which shows we recognize the high quality technology used in France, and also showed we had a very solid cooperation foundation and also our good friendship. Our both sides also are willing to promote trade liberalization and facilitation. We will expand the scope of cooperation in this regard. China welcomes more French companies coming to China for investment, and China also at the same time would like to open wider our market to buy more French agricultural products that's suitable to Chinese markets. We already witnessed the contract signed in terms of the beef import from France to China, and we will speed up our efforts in these areas to let the Chinese consumers to consume and enjoy more high-quality beef and other agricultural products from France. We all believe we should firmly uphold UN rules and regulations, and we should cooperate in an equal and fair manner to create a favorable and enabling business environment. Our both sides also reached the principal consensus in aviation cooperation. China is always the biggest buyer of Airbus aircrafts. Right now in China, we have a large number of Airbuses running and operating in China, and in Tianjin we also had a joint venture plant, which is the leading project of our both bilateral cooperation. During our meeting, I introduced to Mr. Premier, in the recent years, China bought large number of passenger aircraft. Should give China a time to digest all these large quantities, but we are still willing to strengthen our cooperation with French Airbus, because French gave a great support and assistance in our aviation market and also the pilot training. So China will continue our discussion with the French side and to sign the contract of Airbuses at a suitable time. China takes positive attitude to cooperate with the French side, and I believe this is one of the outcomes we reached with the French Prime Minister for his visit this time. We not limit ourselves in economic and trade areas, we also work on the culture exchange. So during our meetings, we talked about that the French museums, Picasso artworks should bring to China and cooperate with the Chinese side. So the two governments would like to drive all these cooperations. And we also would like to see more cooperations, especially in language. We believe by doing so, this will enrich the content of our both sides' cultural exchange. So we will also further our efforts in the cooperation of climate change. So we were working on the green manufacturing, green economy, green finance, and so on, in order to make contribution to the world climate governance. So all in all our outcomes shows we have great potential of cooperation, upholding the multilateralism and trade liberalization. The existing order can be improved and reformed in order to cope with the times. So by doing so, we can safeguard the world economy development, cooperation, and world peace. China and France will continue and maintain our strategic cooperation and communication. Thank you.
And after Premier Li's comments, his French counterpart, Prime Minister Edouard Philippe, also spoke. Let's listen to him.
During those 4 days of visit, we have the privilege of discovering Shenzhen and to rediscover with great pleasure Shanghai and Beijing. We just had with Mr. Prime Minister Keqiang a very deep exchange. After I had my meeting with President Xi Jinping and National People's Congress President. This first visit as Prime Minister, a little bit after 5 months after the French President's visit, is a testimony of the intensity of the relationship that we want to have between China and France. I'm committed in establishing very quickly the road trip that was established between our two heads of states. My delegation and myself had a meeting with the French community that live in China and the companies. It comforted me in the fact that reinforcing relationship between China and France can contribute to world peace and world development, as long as this partnership is founded on an open-minded spirit. We just talked with Prime Minister Keqiang. We just said that France and China had to tackle challenges like especially global warming. Everybody knows how serious this problem is. We are deeply committed in tackling this issue. We must find solutions between China and France and also with the world. Environment protection. We need to establish a pact to tackle this issue, and I'd like to thank China for this contribution. We have also other issues like terrorism that are a threat to our security. Like you said, international context is with temptation of
J'ai bien entendu et salué le discours d'ouverture des autorités chinoises, notamment au forum de Boao en avril dernier.
Protectionism and unilateralism. In Boao, China manifested its wanting to tackle those. Some of our fellow citizens.
À cet égard, la Chine peut jouer un rôle décisif.
China must play a very big role in those issues. This agenda allows us to speak freely, and we must talk together. In the respect of economic, in historical sectors of our partnership, we must maintain them, but we must also develop other sectors.
Je pense tout particulièrement à la lettre de couverture relative au projet d'usine de retraitement recyclage des déchets nucléaires,
recycling.
Orano et CNNC.
Both companies, Chinese and French, have signed very important agreements that confirm that our partnership is very strategic in this issue of recycling. I think also about the signature of a protocol about sending French meat to Chinese market.
All right, and it's important to point out that the Prime Minister has been in China for 4 days, specifically visiting Shenzhen and Shanghai. And for more of a breakdown on the relationship between these two countries, France and China, let's bring in Professor Liu Baocheng. He's the Dean of the Center for International Business Ethics at the University of International Business and Economics. So first, I want to ask you, Professor, what do you make of the Prime Minister's itinerary to specifically visit two of China's biggest cities, particularly, you know, when you look at Shanghai being the financial capital, really, of China?
Well, the first stop is Shenzhen. Shenzhen is really the bridgehead for Chinese open door policy, and also it is the great beneficiary in terms of the cultural diversity, in terms of the innovation, and also that in the financial market development. So Shanghai, of course, is the Asia's biggest financial market, and it attracts many multinational companies to locate their headquarters over there. And it has a tradition of opening to the outside world. So that's a very clear indication that France wanted to engage with China, with an open China, and with the Chinese financial market, and also with China's innovation. So of course, you know, Beijing as a political center, but also Beijing is also taking on a new look, both in terms of the skyline and also in terms of the commitment to climate change. And Beijing is setting up a good example by changing the foggy situation, by reallocating some of the big pollutant items, or simply to eliminate those items. So therefore, both countries have a lot in common, and this itinerary is arranged in a very interesting but meaningful way.
No doubt climate change is certainly something these two countries see eye to eye on and will continue to work forward on. We heard from Premier Li even mentioning green economy, green finance, and then the Prime Minister echoing the importance of their commitment to walking back global warming together in some way. This comes at an interesting time on the heels of President Emmanuel Macron's visit back in January. He really wanted to push for more bilateral relations when it comes to trade. But trade is a big thing, right? As we see, this is an environment where you've got the United States and China sort of at each other's throats a bit when it comes to trade. Yet France does want to equalize the trade balance. And some French media says, look, it's not favorable to France. What do you make of the trade relations between these two countries and how each one can sort of make that better?
Well, there is reality and also there is fantasy involved in these trade issues. The reality is that there are structural problems where China is engaged in the big manufacturing house. But the French is retreating from those heavy manufacturing area and reallocate more of their business in China, which is in a similar pattern with that going on from the United States. But there are also institutional problems that China bears much of the blame from the global community in terms of the slowed openness in many other market sectors and in the EU transparency, and also in the state-owned enterprises that are not really playing on an equal footing with the rest of the world. So now that with this new round of reform and open door, so China is being committed more to the global governance in terms of the trade disputes, and also China is improving its rule of law in protecting not only the intellectual property, but also to protect the equal competition between both Chinese and also international firms. And in the meantime, China is shifting more to support the small and medium-sized enterprises, which allows a better participation of the small and medium enterprises from overseas, inclusive that from the France. So I think now with the consensus in mind, and also with the institutional structure that are there in the working, so the relationship is definitely going to push. But in the meantime, green business becomes a very hot spot, and also it may be turning out to be a big changer in the trade pattern. So we can have joint, development, and also we can work on a third country. For example, we are working together with France to build the nuclear power plant in England. And now we're also looking at Africa so that we can really bring the green technology over there to work together for mutual benefit.
Definitely, it seems like China showing its commitment to France, and France sending its president, and then just a few months later, its prime minister to China surely shows France's commitment as well to a better relationship between both countries. All right, Professor Liu Baocheng, thank you so much. And that does it for this special edition of The World Today. I want to send it over to Nairobi and my colleague Karen Roberts for Africa Live.
Okay, thank you very much, Erica. And of course, there we were seeing a discussion following a joint press conference between Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe. The two countries are enjoying increased bilateral ties. Well, this is Africa Live. I'm Karen Roberts in Nairobi. Now with the other news. Nigeria has imposed a dusk to dawn curfew in Central Plateau State. This is after at least 86